Cold case, a term you may have well heard, a show you may have well seen, and you may well know it relates to really old cases. It doesn't refer to a game of hot or cold, of which the trail has run cold, so to speak, or that isn't quite accurate. The truth is all of that is true, but the most important expression it does not convey so easily is the most important. Cases that have been unsolved for a long time reach a threshold where the term cold case embodies it due to the legality of the situation. The cold case is an umbrella case that remains utmost importance, and therefore when referencing those aged inappropriate cases, you'll hear it overcasting by name. The importance is as early as the term police itself, and the crime is snow. Anything lesser is futile. Snow may be beautiful, but if not controlled, it causes a vast great amount of cold sickness and car crashes each year. Humans created snow in the atmosphere, and the police have been on the case ever since they got their start. When you break down the word police in word association, it is much like the word for origin of the culture, the Polish. In two parts, pole and ice. The North and South Pole, of course, covered in ice are reasons fueling their job. The poles of Earth are naturally covered in ice ever since snow was created. But who created the snow? The Polish answer that case all the way chasing the resolve here in America as authorities figures among other police type of cultures. The reason perhaps it affects them the most. They may be direct neighbors to those who developed the science behind it. This video aims to help make an understanding and enlighten the role that all humans need to be aware, if not vigilant to correct, and save our planet. This video explains how we need global warming more than ever, and the answer may not be so easy. They found there is no better way to ensure a live artillery reaches the surface than to do with physics, naturally, not mechanics. The room for error reduces drastically from artillery or delivery systems failure and can be catastrophic as blowing yourself up. So they attached poles to the torpedoes that would later become the actual stereotype for the North and South Pole, visually. These pole-like canisters consist of either one atomic element of helium or one atomic element of oxygen, but they are expanded. The expansion of one atom element goes from microscopic to the entire size of the torpedo's pole cased in a cylinder canister. Stretched to such a dimension, gathers smaller like-kind atoms, and that physically drives the can to the sea level. Where a majority of H2O meets the air, also exists a relief horizon that both H and O exist in a major change from liquid to air. Left intact to float freely, these cans not only seek sea level automatically, they also slowly drive to the North and South Pole. In fact, the stereotypical site of the North Pole, being a cylinder candy cane, according to Christmas, is a true vision of the past. The original use of these poles, however, was neither ends of the Earth nor torpedoes. They are a science for something else. The fact there are both helium and oxygen when you only need one is a testament to that. They have lucrative initial intentions. Transmute, displacing elemental matter, non-biological, in a space and tie to another space at the same time, such that the elements travel instantaneously without sight or sound of the motion during the movement. The other definition is an act of lore abilities involved in fantasy role-playing allowing magical modifications. An example is the Wicked Witch of the Sea transmuted Ariel's mermaid, thin with legs, so she would experience what it is like to walk on land among humans different than mermaids. Another example is Harry Potter's cloak from the Harry Potter movie series. A phenomenon occurs in really old footage of the Hitler era, where camera quality it makes it nearly impossible to detect unless you were there. The phenomenon surrounds what today just very well may be modern UFO sighting before drones to relevantly seem to take the place. In German history exists massive airships called Zeppelins. What isn't immediately evident by the footage is variant truths in camera footage. The footage, black and white and available on YouTube, doesn't give much help to persons born who never has seen one. What maybe happened to those who did? These very subtle reasons for the recording perhaps are hard to spot, so let's go over some of them right now. At 30 seconds into Graf Zeppelin returns to New York after World Tour 1929. Exhibit: streak of horizontal metal shine fading in and out quickly in the clouds. This is one of those I initially wrote off as camera quality, but a closer look at the frame, and it appears to be a large metal horizontal object that flickers visible and disappears like a glitch. At 3 minutes and 24 seconds into Graf Zeppelin returns to New York after World Tour 1929. Exhibit: powder drops as if efforts to ensure understand visibility. This is strange behavior to be using a plane to crop dust a blimp, and especially doing so right over New York airspace. It is as if they are attempting to see something or keep track of something by powdering it. At 1 minute and 24 seconds into Graf Zeppelin in peril in 1929. Exhibit: a natural funnel or artificial funnel water drop without a visible source. If I am not mistaken, this particular flight is about to land where it initially departs from, and is dewatering like some sort of required procedure, causing a rain spout. At 1 minute and 34 seconds into Hindenburg disaster, real Zeppelin explosion footage, 1937. British Pathé. Exhibit: a funnel water drop seeming coming from the airship. During this Zeppelin-related video, another rain spout is occurring over the ocean, and maybe just weather, but the last clip makes me think overwise. At 2 minutes and 53 seconds into Un-Sierra Zeppelin 1938, construction of the LZ-133. Exhibit: more than one airship in the air at the same time, not just one exists. Prior to checking on YouTube, I was as ignorant as these ships don't exist anymore. I never in my right mind contemplated 45 may had existed, let alone 2 proofs in this video. At 5 minutes and 53 seconds into the flying carriers, Part 2 DAW. Exhibit: a vague camera or field distortion flickering surrounding an airship. Again, something strange that could be easily viewed as poor camera quality for the time period. But there may also be something going on that causes flickering cloaks. At 17 minutes and 3 seconds into the flying carriers, Part 2 Exhibit: men standing in midair scrambling to duties like on a bridge control deck. Upon first glance, I thought this video was filmed from a WW fighter jet as they dropped bombs into the sky below them as shown here. Or not as shown here, those bombs aren't dropping from the plane the camera is in. They're not even bombs. Those are floating people walking on a bridge deck who have been spotted from above their position and are scrambling to man their stations, attempting to find more information on the airships. I read somewhere that there were maybe as many as 45 of them in one launch. The question remains, where are they now? On that, said launch, the Graf was among them, and upon it returning to land, it disintegrated. Moments after, there was a water stream seen falling from the airship. It caught fire and was completely destroyed. Should there really had been 45 in the launch, why is there not an example preserved? Blimps continue to be used even with companies like Goodyear. In overview of the videos we just cited, it is my opinion that the blimps are still around with variant service states of maintenance. The videos hint to a presence that is hidden, and everyone but those in the blimps are none the wiser trying to solve the mystery. I believe the pole canisters are originally designed to measure a tractor of plasma energy and count molecules to transmuting a cloak. Next, let's review some UFO sightings that have been happening for a long time, but these in particular, revisited, express a shape behind. The stream of water I don't believe is weather. I think it is what happens when they turn the cloak off, and it was too dry for the Graf. The one that occurs over the ocean is perhaps the attempt to counter that dry balance by being over a vast mass of water, the ocean. In the videos to follow, this is also true of a plenty of them which appear to be having some sort of ocean meeting, or maybe reconfigure. When I say variant state, it is also perhaps the innovations of the technology in the world, the advent of Google Maps, that has partially exposed a secret. The very popular typical saucer UFO object sighting in the sky, when I think back, is rather could be a Zeppelin with a visual distance misunderstanding. The bridge of a Zeppelin is under what in the correct light looks like a metal saucer if we consider these ships are completely metal. Here are some more recent UFO sighting video clips that support the chance and I believe are spot on to the modern Zeppelin being the culprit. If my theory is true, the Zeppelins are under some sort of cloak the majority of the time, and that is where I believe the can and Nikolaus Tesla comes to focus. Nikolaus may not be directly involved himself, but his discovery may be crucial to an effective transmute of combinations of helium and oxygen as many amounts. In this theory is the purple plasma energy fire that exists visible from a Tesla coil when in a magic orb, for example, is used against these cans as a tractor beam. The cans serve as one single helium or oxygen and are physically locked into a tractor plasma beam that is counting many elements in a remote swarm. That swarm, then, is able to be transmuted to an arbitrary location, such as covering all the elemental properties of the physical Zeppelin itself, thus allowing it to have the illusion it disappears. But with the advent of Google Maps and the type of power maps that is unseen to public, these Zeppelins became exposed by chance and opportunity where, since their original flight, it is apparent they have kept secret and hidden most of the time. Turning off such cloak only makes sense could possibly be the stream of water that is seen draining out of seemingly nowhere in the old videos. There are some other theories I've come up with related to this topic. One is that the cloaks make it so the Zeppelins are immobile, meaning once they are turned on, they must stay where their position is, at least in initial early designs. Observing the world pocket figures book statistics on carbon per person, the Virgin Islands seem dangerously high, well over 2 times more than anywhere else in the world. This may be because the displacing of the helium and oxygen leaves a less dense hole where it once was, and a duplicate density where it is covering. As the world turns, the plane light trap that is Earth then sorts that lesser density space into one location naturally. Another theory is that these 45 Zeppelins left for various strategic country locations to disappear at. Since the disappearances, the graph struck fear into the Zeppelins from ever turning the cloak off. Some stray cans not in use in the Zeppelin may also be a threat. Stray cans, or even those with the ships, in my opinion, create what is in effect called the H-bomb, and it is a static charge building at all times. When the expanded helium or oxygen attract lesser-sized ones, and both cans are around, enough build up, flip-flops atoms to the other. The flip-flop is felt like a minor earthquake of static that stretches to the very molecules of wherever snow begins to fall. Literally, the atoms are torn from their element, leaving an iced hydrogen. The distance is snow itself that the H-bomb reaches, and it's been irreversibly growing colder each time. I think without control and accountability of every one of these cans in an ordinance of decommissioned at least once a year simultaneously, we doom ourselves. The most unique perspective example is the continental halves of the world, where the U.S. side is not as far into a cold spell as Russia is, for it existed there first. If the world could have a recall on these cans, even the ones possibly glacier buried in the poles of Earth, then I think we aren't failing the Earth in a growing change. To do so could ensure the simplicity of and future of, who knows, maybe controlled snow as cute as a wristband size can like a snow globe just for yourself or house. On a lighter topic, I just want to point out one final theory about media related to Hitler that might support the lucrative entry to these cloaks not turning off. Recalling school, we watched some media on Hitler that presented like a documentary, and I thought there was some real images from the time on the program. I wondered, and so I thought I would seek out Hitler media once more and find possibly reference to what I watched or otherwise. Knowing the library is a possible medium and long gone VHS rental stores, I checked Netflix instead. I immediately became humbled at how ignorant I was on the subject is still putting out new media constantly, and any or none of it appears documentary. It appears more so than possible to find actual media, because somehow it looks like the media is still coming out, and none is credible in drowning. There was so much, I had to conclude, I can't be sure the stories were true when presented with teachers' reference checking. The amounts of new media are staggering. It would seem he is an actor in many of them. Furthermore, he is making it big, still in black and white. Is that possibly due to the inability to turn the cloak off and come down to get modern camera equipment, that they only have what tools existed when turned the cloak on? Other sources of reference, the USS Eldridge, in the Philadelphia experiment on October 1943, exhibited an unqualified, unexplained, or hoax of a U.S. ship disappearance. It could explain